The howling wolf stands before the open doors. Go through, they said. The cards, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are closed no more. It is possible to see the corridors of the house. It is the mansion of the soul. The howling wolf goes through with a yell and jumps for joy as he sees the realm of scenes before him. The lost world is time here before him that leads to another world. You've just got to take their pictures. You've just got to take their pictures. I saw the picture, one of them, of Jesus with the spear in his side and the words. The DNA is the wound in the side. The Y line is the F, the X. Take it. Take the path. I looked around at the portraits. There's not a stick of furniture in this place except a mirror. Of course, the mirror. That's what I would go through. Upstairs, on the other side, cells, tunnels, every one of them, rooms, dungeons. I'd see the museum in the lost world. Yes, of course, the Louvre, the museum, and, of course, the area, other times, other places in space. That's where I would go. Quick, quick! I saw the Holy Church. The celestial light stood at the peak of the apex of the triangle of the crown, perfectly formed. Inside, capsuled, could be seen a jewel in the corridor in the face of the girl, of the woman who is the Holy Ghost of the soul, of her soul. She has long red hair, and she hears from afar. She's set in a citadel, lines in the face of the cathedral, of the outline of her pupils. She's the queen of genetic energy. That's what the poem said that had been left by father, who'd gone into the mind and never been seen again, been shot in the head, it was said. And her name is Magdalene, where all is gold, and Louise was a sentence added. I entered the mine. I entered Mount Isa on the 25th of May 2007. The snake pit lay at its centre. It was a mandala. It consisted of a radio transmitter and a television, a square, borders, 4, a rectangle that was a two-way mirror. That's it. That was what it was on the other side of the portraits. They turned. I went in. The front turned to the back, I assumed, and I was in its other side, the centre. It was a ring, a circle that accompanied its borders and encompassed. A compass pointed an arrow, and there were two that overlapped at the foot of the circle. That was, I see, it was her lake. It was in her lake, and there it was, an altar in the museum, and I could hear bells, echoes around. Voices talked, chatter, like altercations, as if others were there, and a court case. Yes, I thought I saw God as my prosecutor, but this was the lost world, another area, as if in a curvature, but it looked like a demonstration, and people were reconvening, and in judgment. A basement, there, on the other side were steps leading down to the basement, and a jury on the side looked like rabbits with rabbit ears and animals, and the basement I called it. That's where Annie was. The map had said that she was in the basement, down the stairs, down the below the tower, in the church, the Mother Church. Of course, that's the area in which I stood, the Mother Church. A totem pole in the middle, and its tip was made of metal, and a rose fluttered in the centre of the circle. I began to run up and down the stairs. suddenly I saw her. She curtsied. She said, you see, Magdalene, we are the Trinity. Louise and Rosie. I looked at her. She smiled at me and she said, turned up an octave musically. Good heavens, I felt I was in Alice in Wonderland, down the hole in which the rabbit had scurried and Alice had been. But then I watched her and she pirouetted very quickly. Zounds, she said. Good Lord, it was Mary. Zounds. Aren't I terrific? She said as she curtsied and swirled a ballerina before me like a child. You are, I said, you are. Wisdom, I said with affection, for I'd missed her. I'd thank you, James, she said as she curtsied, and she said, you're not bad yourself, Professor. You see, I made you a star in the 30th century, but you died in 1960. You drank yourself steward, and you... Steward, I thought? You drank yourself... I wasn't a drink steward. I was Errol. I was a pirate. I was a star. I was... No, she said... She held a finger to her lips. She said, you drank yourself stupid and you threw it all away. And now I'm back to give you another opportunity for another day, resurrected from the Pantheon to live again. Like Arthur, James, you will be processed again. Good Lord, I thought I've had enough of this. But I thought I might as well persist, try it on. As I watched her again, and she said the words I'd heard as that large rabbit over there, the foreman of the jury, turned that big book, a diary, a records book like the sergeant I'd seen in the beginning of The Mirage, in the beginning. As she said, you've just got to take their pictures, go inside and take them and retrieve and go out again as your father did, and develop the pictures in the room and then place them on the doors on the other side so that others will know and see the mirror and be able to come in again and see the other world, the lost world. I see, I thought, and the rabbit turned the pages again. Yes, of course, there was the mirror, the back of it, the Louvre, and of course I saw this woman's... God, it was her bottom, her perfect bottom. Of course, I turned the door round and she was on the other side. That's why. And there she was, the picture. Oh, the rabbit, it seemed to turn the pages in synchronicity with my doing this, my observations. And, yes, there was the front of the woman, and that's how I'd seen the geographical areas, the areas marked in geography had exactly conformed and paralleled areas in the sketch of her body, and there was an index in the diary that the rabbit had and was looking at, or should I say at which he was looking. Ending sentences with reparations. Apparitions, preparations, voice was going again. It was like a pilot. I was in my cockpit again, the jet, and I was suffering for air. I'd flown into this area, gone through this revolving door, and I was choking again, getting my words. I remember I pressed the button in the middle of her belly button. That's how the sketch, the picture turned, because I'd cut open the navel of the area like a caesarean birth, and it was visible. I'd sketched this myself, I now remembered. The formula was there, and I saw how these areas of the world matched the areas of a sort of electricity, a special sphere, a number of chakras, and there in the middle was a Vilfot, the turned swastika, the medicinal wheel. That's right, that's what it was. Hitler had turned it around and confused us all, and now it was a a demonized word, but it still held a secret. And when it opened this door, and I went into the mother church, the Louvre. That's what had happened. Supersonic energy was there, and I saw all these pictures that you're seeing now, that I recorded when I went in, like a flight, like a pilot in a jet, and click, took the pictures from the area of the wingspan of the plane. But it was my sight, my inner camera in my brain, my head, which click, 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 took the pictures, quick, click, 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 one after the other. That was it. That was it. The rabbit was still turning the amazingly large diary-like record book that was... He sat there still like a foreman in the jury, and I saw the cave, the crack at the end, the other side, and the treasure of gold in there as I watched him turn the pages, and I looked at Princess Lana. She turned suddenly. She was Lana, Elaine, the Lady of the Lake. Of course. That was it, and she was there. Suzanne, she had different names, and she was a picture, an exhibit in this Louvre, this area, which I watched, and like the Christ, her face, her sponged hair was thonged. It was vinegarized and twisted and locked in a thong that was evidenced by a spear that was run through her solar plexus side. The crucified Venus, of course. She was there. I looked back. I could see all the walls and sides of the museum. It was like a studio in which I'd recorded music. Yes, of course, and it had been in my head, but it mirrored outside because I'd worked out inside my head what this area was and built it outside myself and projected myself into it. It had been shattered inside my head, I know, and there it was. Yes, at the moment it was deserted, yet I knew that I walked through it. A spirit. It always worked when I couldn't start to speak properly. I knew my body was back in the other area on the other side of the doors and that had turned on the walls, but this area in which I walked, I also had a body. I was also me, the perfect twin of myself, and I could walk around and see. Yes, her picture, her neck, the fingers, the rosary beads, all looked over the mirror, into the glass, the concave glass adjacent to it, the picture. Louise turned, and I saw her. I'd seen her flick herself round in her bed, and she burst out into a smile and said, "David." And I said, "Louise, you're alive." That's what I remembered as I walked through this area and looked to the mirror again, and I saw it was like a Royal Bishop's Square. I couldn't believe it, but I had to. It was there. There was that rabbit again. White rabbit. He turned another page. There were the girls, more girls. That Annie, my Annie who had died, and my baby, my child, and there was Anastasia, Anna Anderson, she was there, alive, the Grand Duchess, she was, yes, she was, gave me a wave, Right, I thought. A shot of Sir Keith. I saw him. Again. Suzanne. The kitchen scene. The film. The mock film had been set up, and there were barracks and actresses. It was like wax, madam. Two swords, except it wasn't at all. It was my people, my friends, my angels alive. That was why I'd entered. Wired was the lounge. I'd heard, of course. I tried to trick the painting to bring her to life. It had worked. That's what I'd done. As I quit the war, she said, the war. I remember Dr. Hood looked up at her. She spoke out as if a word projected the sound, pierced from her side, from the other dimension in which I'd found her. That's what had happened before I'd gone in for the wall. On the other side, I'd heard the years of sound that went round and round, and this world I'd found, it was the one which I thought and sought. The X-ray, the ray had led me, as I heard the doctor say, and I remember at the time. Yes, the sirens, they were approaching from the outside, and I grabbed the diary and looked at it, and there they were coming bang bang up the stairs. Yes. No, they're going to burst the door open. I got burst out the door. I was gone. I could still hear the siren in the background as I shot into this area. That's it. This time the door had just turned of its own accord and swung round, banged, as if in a weather storm, a cyclone. I didn't need to press the button this time. It just worked. Yes, I tried to trick the painting. I had. I remembered now. It was half Richard Marvel. That's right. I couldn't talk again. It's this ether. Half Richard Marvel, and yes, it was, of course, James Devine, half strangled, half drowning as soldiers had bashed down the door, and the fragment I'd found, the magic formula, the recipe. That's what I sought. The bird. That's what it said in the page. The fragment I'd found. The bird source. Of course, the Holy Ghost. It was air. This force that I was part of, and it jetted inside, and I, still in my body, it's not my double because it was first. My double was back, still in bed behind the wall. Yet this, of course, I'd lain in bed and seen the picture projected up on a screen, in a sense, which was the door, and suddenly it had burst inside this area, this room. But it was a Louvre, an endless museum in princes. Yes, there's the picture, and I saw 1907, and the Queen. Yes, there, Christina. There she was. Yes, of course, that's what it was. Yes. The boys and the girls played. The girls and the boys. Holes in their stockings at their thighs. It was 1712, 1412. The numbers they exchanged and rotated around the clock on the dial as I struggled to go forward, and I saw them all, their skirts spread as they were in this area of Spain, Sephardic Spain. That's where I was, 1412, in the room where we used to meet. That was it. And then the rabbit turned a page, and another page, and I read the words as he turned them round. They had been upside down, and they said the search for Hortex. Annie, the lost young girl. She embarked on this quest, and she wanted you to follow. Antoinette, Joan, the line down to 12 disciples. That is it. The body, young woman you saw in the beginning. It was spirit lay out on the table and looked like a coffin. You remember, it's the XY spirit, 2 in 1 on the operating table. You were a doctor, don't you remember? The professor, the psychiatrist, doing the DNA experiment, and you matched it, your own, with the Tsar, and proved that she was her, the age of her prime. Now she's back again. See the picture. The angels from heaven transmit to the receptor, and you write them down. That is what we brought you here for, to see the beginning. I'm flattered, I said. You should be, said Magdalene. I don't do it usually. I don't usually slam open a portal and invite anyone in. Well, can I come again and see you again? I'd like to see Mum. Mama! Mama! Hello, son! That's Mum's there. She is over there. She waved. Hello, Mum. Hi, Dad. Yep, everyone was there. The stream flowed and the pastures were green, and I saw the zing, the singing silver in the atmosphere, the horizon, as it sang and sings to this day in my head. The singing silver. I turned. I said, "Can I come again, Louise?" And she said, "Zip!" I was back again, in my bed. Suddenly, the crinkles of the atmosphere, the silver, settled down and set down. I could swear the last electricity of Audrey as she stood in the opening of the tunnel. There were 3 bits of paper, crumpled, and she looked like a Mother Superior, waved and said adieu. And the tunnel papered over. Princess, I now give you. I found the piece of paper before me the next morning on the table. It had been ripped off and half was there. It was in my handwriting. It said, "Where? Been? I had been where?" It had a dash, a halfway house that was white, between the living on earth and the living there. For Audrey, I know, had died in the... There was a blank. 73rd year? She had been a great actress. Her heyday, her films had heralded her all over the world. Played her parts with devil may care. Whimsical fashion was beyond compare hers. In front of me I saw the crucifix. Joan. And then Suzanne in the screen. And the body in the church window. There was I. And the plane. And the child. My father. And God. Good Lord. The Princess Hotel into which I'd moved. There it was. I was a fossil. A fish. A shark. A whale. Locked in a picture, in a painting on the wall, in a frame. A white whale. And there at the far end was the old man, smoking the cigar, standing, ashing it against the wall in the Prince's Hotel lounge. And I saw, watching, waiting. I suddenly heard him say, for the pirate DJ, waiting for him to come in again. I realised I could see him. He suddenly said, "You'll be trapped in a frame. A story. You'll be sent insane. You'll be locked in. You can't get out. It's a can't get out game." And he ashed his cigar again. Smoking cigars. That seemed to have something to do with it all. He was fingering around a necklace was drawn in short Morse code type marks around the painting in a circle. And then I heard him say, "They killed her. They killed her because she challenged the way." The type. Definition. Perfect person. Man. He started to stutter and slowly fall to the floor and stump his foot, and I heard him ash his cigarette again. I was in this strange... It was 1897. He was my great-grandfather. That's who he was. And I saw the doors suddenly, the 3 doors. 1, 2, 3. There were the pictures. Of course. Vera, Errol, and of course the picture of myself. Crucifix. The crucified corpse. There, against it. And her. She was where was Barabbas. She wasn't the thief, yet there was the spear, the corpse dripped blood, and of course the people hugged, clinging to the corpse instead of where was the pastoral word. Thunder and illness. I could see the tumour in the X-ray in the forehead over the picture. The picture was being X-rayed by experts in the lab, of course, and there was Professor DNA, and he looked like my uncle. He looked like me. I, older. Of course. Oh, he swallowed, and I got the impression he swallowed a hook, as if hook, line and sinker. He swallowed this ridiculous DNA result of Anastasia. But now he was aware. He could see, I could see the walls were coming together, opening, Like the parting of the Red Sea, except this one was green. Yes, green all around, green in this area which I had found, which I loved, this Emerald City, this lost area. Green Mansions, I called it. There was Audrey, of course, but in the time zone, in the present, I could see and hear the words. Of course, this was the legacy, because I could see them in the court case in the other time space, and I heard the executor de Santort, who had been legitimized now, say, but be Emily's, and oh, of course, it was Richard Marble again, the barrister who came to court on that day to do the Section 156 Island Fiji discrimination persecution case. And there he was saying to the Mirror, and I quote, in the diary provided by this smiling cat and the rabbit, the animals and the jury. Quote, is the diary page now. Turn it. I could see, I can hear Richard Marble's voice. I could take under the will as James Devine. With Emily's disappearance, the house had been closed up and awaited administration of her estate for all time, for 7 years in this present space-time on this earthly planet, after which time Emily will be officially registered dead, on the cross, crucified with the spear run through by the Roman in the 1st century, which has come back to us, and which you have seen with your sight. Notwithstanding the ambiguity of identity of the corpse at the trial, the ambiguity of the spirit. The spirit was crucified. Now is the day before the end of 7 years. DJ will take, unless I can perfect the serum and live as Richard Marble and James Devine in this terrible confined time on this island of time. When I planned this manoeuvre, I thought I had the essence of the serum. Now it is not working completely. It is stopping, not reversing. I had read the formula in Emily's published masterpiece. I had tried to apply it. Nothing had happened for years now. Today is a changed state of James. DJ, I cannot remember how to get back from this area to James Devine and exchange from day to day. I am trapped in time. He looked at us. He pointed the revolver. Still I am Richard Marble within. The inner conflict is intolerable. I must either be God or Satan or Lucifer. He is mad, I thought. I looked at the superintendent, but James Devine stroked Richard Marble, the conglomeration, said, TJ, my memory of the map is returning. You have found the diary. The hour is here. The right hand of my watch has stopped, and that of the clock, that is the hand that is the left, has crossed to be interlocked, to lock me, my face, my soul, in this time space on the anniversary of... His words trailed off. DJ read the diary. The moment of each death as the pendulum swings, swings to the ring of the bells of St. Trinian's, of the old grandfather chimes of St. Anne's, of the mansion that is this, the house of James and the Marquis, and Emily Devine, Suzanne, the twins on the stem of the tree of life, the family tree. of time to form a line, the DNA line that includes Anastasia, the Sephardics of Spanish migration to France, the German line from the Rhine connects and converges to form in the last page of this diary as the chimes of Europe in the hour converges and is swinging in time. The rightful beneficiary hangs, turning the pages in his mind, looking at the pirate machine as the pages turn down, and she, waiting. You were sucked down. The audience. We all were. We were filming. It's a camera. We were on a film set filming you with the DNA in the lab because we asked you to check Annie's DNA against the prince and the Prince of Spain, the old DNA and the German, and there you are, you have the Sephardic and the Rhineland area there from the East Judea. Yes, that's it. Of course, the Roman era. And there's a connection with the Greek. And you see the Russian through there. It all comes down through this, yes, the house, the German DNA. There's some Hessian in there. Of course, and it connects with Annie. And, of course, you see all the evidence is there. Yes, well, she knew the German general came in the winter. Nobody could know that possibly at all. There is no possibility whatsoever unless she... I mean, it's simple. It's only a fool could not see that. It's the black and white ABC. And, of course, there's numerous other things that she knew. And, anyway, the point is that... you can see for yourself her whole bearing and her aristocratic style. Anyway, here's an extra which shows you all the details. It's too... But you see, you were sucked down into the time area. We were filming and we looked at there was a... You see the tumour, the story was hidden, locked in you like a safe. We had to find the combination, the number 33 opened and well, all of us were watching and it was showing this film against the screen, you see, on the wall there. And well, yes, there were inmates in this asylum and well, prisoners. You see, there was a war, a coup. Well, we were watching, you see, we were watching her swinging. She was captured. She said she was a witch by definition in the 16th century. And Joan, well, yes, well, she was swinging and some magical, well, she sprang from the rope and cut his throat. And, well, the judge, well, he was lying forward, his wig fallen forward, and blood poured from his neck of his throat. And, well, we arrested you, and of course, this is what's happened. You've been confined to your room under house arrest. You were Prime Minister Michael Cameron. Don't you read the papers? Well, don't you remember anything? A strange feeling was in the air. He couldn't explain it to himself, but he shivered. It's all written here. You've written it in the diary to yourself, and of course we can reproduce it. Well, it's in the first person from now on. I looked at the light and I was far from the capital. I was far from my lines. I had no food, no water, no hope, just fear and aeroplanes. But I braced myself. I was in a straight jacket, locked. I prayed. Sweat poured down from my brain and my forehead, and I moved inside the straitjacket and looked at the light, and I could suddenly feel an opening and move, and bang, 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 bang. The laces, they sprung open, and I could breathe. I took it off. There was help. There was a way out. I could see it against the doors. Over there. There was I could see it. I could see the doors. There were the paintings that I'd made, and I went over them. It was the one that had the spear on the side of the woman crucified against the cross. I knew it was a button in that area where there was the wound, and I pressed it, and presto, bingo, instantly opened. But I was transported from this room into the middle, the centre of the area inside the space on the other side of the wall, and there I saw the island I was sitting on. I was stationed, and that is where I saw the whole court case. The aisle, the courtroom, the DNA. I looked back, and there I saw the door had closed, the back of the statue of Suzanne, or was she Emily? Her, I knew you might, I knew it was a good sign with my voice going. It meant that the whole structure, the old order of my conditioning was collapsing, and I was finding a wider space-time. But when I looked back, I knew my bearings, because I could see that, you may laugh, but the bottom of the statue, it showed and indicated the back of the area into which I'd come. So I knew that if I went back there and I found the button, I could turn the statue and hopefully go right out again. But there was the plane. A plane crash. Yes, that's where I had been stuck. And the Hortext, this strange word. I believed it was a code word for God, actually, in a strange language of Freeland. This area was the land of Freeland, the Freelanders, and that is where it had been invaded. The bayonets, the stinging seal of the bayonets, the prisoners had been killed, and I was taken back into this area, and good Lord, I stood before the statue with its back and bottom before me, and it opened, and I was led back into this other room. It closed, and I was in the straitjacket, handcuffed again. I couldn't go on. I grabbed a revolver. The revolver was left for me by them at a table. It was honourable. I held it to my forehead. I tried to pull the trigger, but the trigger wouldn't go off, or it clicked, but nothing happened. Nothing happened again. I was trapped in time, either James Devine or Richard Marble, in this house of Devine, Emily's house. And that was when I saw her in her threadbare dress, white, holes in the stockings behind they were gutted, and fish markets and carriages, and it was, oh my God, there was an overlapping of time. It was Victorian, and Auschwitz overlapped, machine gunnings, and my God, she was shot in the stomach, and it was the Jews. This Jewish princess was murdered at Ravensbrück. Scarlet, lipstick, garish, cheeks rouged and red. I could see her burning in the fire of Auschwitz. She'd been made up by the Nazis, a prostitute. Fishnet stockings and split dress she'd been made an absolute effigy of, and held up against the background of the swastika and entrance of Auschwitz, and nailed to it. But the nails were through her. Yes, through her stomach, not her hands, her palms, and she just drooped, and I could see she was sea green, glaring at the bars in chains and cheap jewellery, wearing a brooch of Magdalene the Saint, ruby at her navel, and I knew she was the French Jew of Vichy. She was Joan, crucified across her head, written, and on a block of wood was Joan, Jeanne, and it was twined around her hair and her neck and her sweat and her vinegared hair by a twisted leather thong. And that is why I knew I had to go on. Clockwork contortions were my gift to unravel. I persisted. I saw the tunnel. If the tunnel continued, I knew I could listen to the stream I suddenly had found behind her picture, her crucified picture on the side where was the wound, and simply follow the stream, follow its message. Because the stream spoke, it seemed pregnant with mythological glistening remonstrances. Remonstrances. I couldn't. I'd fallen, and my God, I saw Sabah. I couldn't speak anymore. It was working. I saw cigar smoke, and I looked and saw fishes. My God, white sharks, whales. But they were all swimming together in a strange line, bouncing on the surface of the waves of the stream. They glittered silver, and their scales mesmerized me, as if I could catch them on my way. They were given up to me for food, and they didn't fight. They held me. I would be assured of nourishment in this cave, and be healthy and survive until I came to an opening and emerged into the light of day. There was hope, there was faith, there was a line of life. There was a way that had been thrown to me, a life buoy had been thrown to me, and from Mary Magdalene, I was sure, to perpetuate through this maze, this hell, in this stuck area of time in which I had found myself in the present, in this world, in 2012. That was the lost world, the lost time, the dead mannequins in the street that I'd seen, the dead people walking, robotic, not thinking, dead, one shifting their dead man's shoes through life. But there was a light of day, a way to get out, to return to God. There was hope, faith, a line of life, a way to perpetuate through this maze of hell in which I had been thrown by events, by my plane that had been crashed, my jet, when I tried to take the pictures, to take back to the X-ray, to examine, to fix up the wounds in myself inside from the images of everyday death television, depression, contempt for human beings I'd seen in this government, this small, tiny government that had caused this overthrow of the individual nation-states. Free land, they called it. They'd appropriated the word, they'd appropriated it. It was free land on the other side, the democracy to which we were all trying to go and practice, but which was a facade, a pretense. Power seemed to reign in this area into which I had entered, and I began to think of what I would do when I was free, to wander alone with the fair hand of Louise in the fields of the island of home, when I was free of heaven. Smile came to my face. My hands played with the shoal of the rocks at which the fishes leapt, and at which the stream flowed, and I felt seaweed and ripped it from the shoals, and I filled it with my throat with salt as I clambered up, and I resolved to go on to other shores, to wherever the stream would take me. I had an uncanny feeling that if the seaweed were present, could the stream come from a channel many miles from here? The realization of the possible situation perplexed me. It was impossible, surely, that the stream emanated from an internal prehistoric island spring. There could be no other explanation. No sense of the situation was otherwise to be admitted. But then anything was possible, anything other than a logical explanation. Explain this cavern in which I was a witness, this case of mine, this time, this DNA seemed to activate and cause a physical materialization of other time and space. I could see the music of the place. Of course. That was it. And still the stream led on. I had commanded myself to follow it. It intertwined and contorted in my mind, but still it took me on, all through, round in circles, and brought me back to the point from which I had commenced. There was the statue, with the bottom, at the area below the waist, was a mark, a mole, and the mole I knew from my medical studies was, yes, the DNA. It was a mark of people who had it were found to have immortal, everlasting life. By that I mean they lived longer and looked younger. Some looked 20, 30 when they were 60, 50, 40. It was strange, but it was a true coincidence. I came to the light and I emerged up to the surface of the new area. All I had to do was find the stream's entry into the area, but it was not marked on the map that I had viewed. The map on the DNA up on the screen. There it was. It was at the tip, the peak of the northwest end, the sides of the Red Sea, I called it. It was marked Red Sea. I knew from my voice, it started to open, and I could go through. I could get through, get out. Oh my God! I forced myself up, forced the palms of my hand down on the sides of the ledge. Oh my God! The hole was narrow, but I eased my way up through. Somehow my body had sort of turned inside out and reduced and emerged up, and I got out. Out. Turn it off now. Okay, director. Sure, fine. Okay, well, that's a take. Well, pretty ragged around the edges, isn't it, director? Yeah, I know, but fuck this. That'll do. Now, Master of Ceremonies. Yes, make the announcement. You have been listening to The Singing Silver by David de Pinna. Yes, made in the studios of the RBC of the government, on behalf of the government of the European Order of, well, the sector, linking hands in an endeavour to link hands with the American sector of, in order to have a universal government next. What's that sound? Oh, this coming up the stairs. There's entering. My God! Good Lord! Quick!